because I can like chop it and change it later, which is all good. So that's recording.
Yes. Hello.
Right. Okay, cool. I'm messing with you now. See, I like to get that. All right. So welcome everyone to Right Now and to IM Academy. And I have a really awesome person I'd love to introduce you to. Well, he's pretty awesome. He's no, he's okay. He's all right. He's actually a bit of a weirdo.
In more ways than
always. This is why we get along so well. So he has just completed the 90-day challenge. And he's kind of still in the 90-day challenge. He's in the last stages of it, about to publish his book. And we're going to have a bit of a chat with him and ask him some really cool questions. Now, the reason that I'm having a chat specifically with Yen, by the way, his name's Yen. Hi, Yen.
Hi.
The reason I'm specifically talking with Yen today is because he's written fiction. Now, for anyone to write fiction in the 90-day challenge, number one, I've done it, so I have so much respect for anyone who takes on that challenge, because it's not just learning the steps, which obviously we give you in the Right Now program. We give you the set steps to go from no idea to published author. But when you're doing fiction, you've got the added level of characterization and plot, and there's other aspects to learn. So I have a lot of respect for anyone that does fiction in the 90-day challenge. So without further ado, welcome and thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you for having me. Very good, very good. It's an awesome day. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it is an awesome day. Like, I wish I was outside because you've got a just amazing background there, but background's okay. I got some books in the background, so okay. Thank you so much for joining us. So the first question that I have to you, I'm just going to jump straight into it, is why did you, let's go back to the start of this journey, right? Why did you want to write a book? What was that about?
Well, for me, what happened was there was a kind of like, I started on my own journey as well. And I had started up with, personally for me, I had started up on a life coaching journey, and I was picking up stuff on life coaching, about life coaching and self-development. And I was finding out a lot about myself. And randomly, the moment was I saw a post by, this person who was encouraging.
Good person, yeah.
Yeah, kind of weird, but something about what she said was it really struck me that
she sounds awesome.
Yeah, she does. More awesome than I thought. No, as awesome as. Sorry. So in short, she said, get published in 90 days. And that person is who appears on the screen now, with me. So suspense, drama. But why? I mean, more than that, I think for me, what happened was when she said, on Facebook, I think when she said that, do you want to get published? I think something answered me or screamed at me from inside saying, yes, I wanted to, because I think aligned on this journey that I started as well, a book has been something, well, you kind of teased it out of me. I think, the idea of the book existed for a long time. And to me, it was kind of like, pun intended, a metaphor for, for a blockage. I think we had this conversation about blockages.
The pipes, yeah.
The pipes being blocked, So it just wouldn't flow. Things wouldn't flow. And when it said that, I realized that writing this book would unlock a lot of potential, it would let a lot of me come out.
Yeah.
And that was really important.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And I'm going to share really quickly for everyone that the blockage metaphor, because it was so well timed. I think it was that very day I'd actually had an experience, and it played out perfectly as this metaphor that I shared with you, where There'd been a drain in my bathroom, and the sink had been blocked. It was blocked, and I'd put like 3 bottles of Drano stuff through it. Like, and I think it was you that actually said literally pouring money down the drain. I was like, yes. And it was so funny because I was at the shops. I'd spent like, $60 just putting these chemicals down the drain. And I was in a shop and I saw this plunger, and it was $2. And I remember thinking, how funny would it be if that's the solution? That right there, the easiest solution, the solution that people used to utilize well before we had Drano, well before the chemicals had been invented to do what they're supposed to do. And I got that, and I took it home, first plunge, and it just flowed, and it was gone.
Yep.
And I was like, and it was in that moment, for the metaphor for me was the ease at which, when I had opened my eyes and saw the solution, it was already there, instead of me going and finding a solution that I thought I was supposed to use. And I just went back. I went old school and just went, let's give this a try. And it was the cheapest option. It was the easiest option. It was the quickest option. And so often we push against things and we try and do things the hard way in the search for the easy way.
Yes.
It's so crazy. Whereas when you get into that flow and you take the path of least resistance, that's when you connect with people that can provide you or assist you with what you're currently missing to get where you need to go. That's where we came into each other's lives.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a very cool metaphor, and I like that. I love that that's always going to be related to you. Perfect.
A pipe blockage, yes.
That's it. That's how I'll always think of, whenever I think of a blockchain, I'll think of you. So what was the most, what was the most powerful thing for you, in regard to choosing fiction specifically? So, I'll let you decide how to interpret that.
To answer that question, I think when I started out, and it comes back to the blockage metaphor as well. I think when I started out, I thought that I was going to do nonfiction, right?
Yeah.
And the series of steps and the guidance that you provided, it's a 90-day challenge. So I think, what was that? Probably week 1, I was acing it. I was happy. I was excited. Then I hit this block, and, well, not a block. I think the challenge was, the task or the guidance was to create the skeleton of the story. And for the life of me, I think it was even after the skeleton already. I think it was the chapters or the chapter heading.
Yeah, I think we were a couple of days past it, because I feel like you kind of got stuck there, but didn't tell me straight away.
Yes. So I continued on, but it didn't sit right. And so when I called you up and we had this chat, and I realized that it wasn't nonfiction that I was writing, and what needed to get out was the fiction, was the story, was this first story. Yeah. And in that itself, that was the eureka moment, the apple on the head, and so everything kind of did. Let me rephrase. I think that was the moment in itself of real self-awareness, and it just hit me that, and there was relief, and there was still confusion, but more than anything, I think there was a huge relief that I realized that was what I wanted to write. And that was amazing.
So was the relief from the clarity, or was there something else with that?
The relief was from the clarity that, I think it was 2 parts. I think the initial immediate response was the relief that I can continue on with the challenge. But I think more than that, it was the relief that a story would be told. That was the act of the plunger, literally shoving the stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, really unblocking it, and realizing that was where I was stuck, and what needed to flow was a fictional piece.
Oh, I love that. And I remember the conversation that we had around fiction and nonfiction. And I remember that that there was confusion And I purposefully never at any point said, just do this. I purposely said, well, there's this option. Yeah, come on. There was this option, there's this option. And I remember being really honest with you, saying, this is probably going to be an easier option. This is going to be a more challenging option. Now, I was very aware that someone who is kind of quite like me was going to want to do the challenge. So I definitely...
See, that's what I meant.
But I also... I also remember that I actually said to you, when you make the decision, I'm like, no, you're not allowed to make the decision yet. You got to go away and think about it.
Yeah.
And get the clarity on it. And even then, you're kind of like, but I think that you always knew what you were going to do. You just needed to get the confidence is not the word. I don't even
validation
think is the word. What was that?
Validation.
Maybe, yeah. Is that what it was?
For myself, it was a sense of self-validation, and it's linked to, in some ways, in most of the time, it's very unresourceful people-pleasing, but the person that was being pleased in that bit was me, the inner, I was pleasing myself, and I was getting validation from you, I mean, as my mentor in this journey, and ultimately it was the right decision.
Yeah.
Whatever it was the right decision.
Absolutely.
It's the correct way to go. Yeah.
And for some people, look, I mean, I've written fiction and non-fiction, so I get it from both sides. I think for some people, it is a matter of doing non-fiction and sharing their knowledge and their wisdom. And I think for others like you, I think for you, you know how things come out and I don't know where they've come from. I think the emotional connection that I seen so early on screamed at me, character and fiction.
Yes.
Yeah? More validation?
More validation, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's, what other questions do I have here for you? Because I was looking at 20 minutes and we're going to blow that out of the water. Pretty typical. What was the experience of writing from a character like for you? So we did a lot of work around characterization. So I'd love to know, for you actually writing from the point of view of a character, how was that experience? Because I know we had some ups and downs in connecting with that.
I think that's more. Actually, there are many answers to that question. I think at the first level, I think because this was my first time writing, obviously, with proper guidance, I think the first hurdle was really getting into character, getting into the head of the character.
Fun. I had a lot of fun with that. I don't know about you, but I had so much fun on that journey with you, helping you connect with him. I was having a ball.
and when it happened, it was amazing. I mean, he just came to life, he existed. He triggered events and occasions that existed. He brought out reality from my subconscious, and people that I thought I was writing about in the book actually appeared in front of me, really as it happened. So I thought that was
saying that, yes.
that was pretty mind-blowing, very mind-blowing. But I think more than that, I think in the previous question, the last point that you said, allowing the character or my voice to come out, I think it just hit me. And that's also layered on, traditionally, I think for a lot of people, like what you said, nonfiction is the easier route. That's what you said, when you asked me to make that decision. But for me, I found that fiction was the easier route. Not the technical bits, but
technically, nonfiction is technically easier, and that's the distinction.
Yes, correct. Yeah. But for the purpose of me writing book, and everything starts from the purpose, right?
Exactly.
Why I wrote it. When me writing a fictional piece in a fictional character, and the caveat is being able to connect with him when I did that, then it's easier, because I think we also had another short discussion on this. Writing fiction gives you the excuse of, since it is fiction, just writing from
it wasn't me. Yeah. I didn't do it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's an interesting point that you bring up, because again, I've done both. So I'm kind of, when I say that non-fiction is technically easier, I've done a lot more fiction than I have non-fiction. Yeah, non-fiction is technically easier because there's for instance, the steps in the Right Now program is just boom, 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 boom. For fiction, I had to create additional resources. So you can still use the resources in Right Now, but I had to create additional ones for characterization, plotting, etc. So there's technically, maybe technically easier is not even the right terminology, technically more. So there's actually more other skills that you need to bring in on top of it. But for me, like you said, fiction's easier. And I love that you said what you said, because we've had this discussion before. When you step into a character and allow that character to take over, you're releasing the judgment, you're releasing the fear, for want of a better term, releasing it's a disassociation. And for me, I said this in the live I did a few days ago. When I step into, for instance, Harvey, I let him go riot. Like, he'll write stuff and I'm like, I'm just not even going to pay attention because you're crazy. And I just let him go nuts and do his thing. I don't even agree with some of the stuff that he says. However, it's still a component of me because it must be. And so that's the beauty of it. You can really get out of your own way and play.
Yes.
Yeah. What was your experience with that?
I think definitely. I think even in our first conversation as well, my metaphor, which was lesser than the plumbing metaphor, was about the shiny planes. And yes. I think when you say that's what triggered me, is that getting out of my own way, more than just in the context of the story. I think writing this fictional piece, or this story, which was fiction, enabled me to really take off and fly. I think we used the small little planes and come off.
Yes, that's right. I remember that. Yeah. Oh, I love it. See, and I'm just going to kind of jump in and just add to this. All of these times where we keep referring to metaphors that we've used, this is a absolute perfect kind of, I guess, smaller version of what we're talking about. Because your book is a metaphor. It's got a whole bunch of little metaphors with an overall metaphor. Harvey it's a metaphor. For any fictional book, realistically, is a metaphor. It's a story that's being told. Yes, through imagination, but it's all through experience as well. We can't write something we don't have a little bit of knowledge, experience, understanding, feeling in regard to. So when we're talking about these metaphors, we're talking about the flying metaphor and all the different ones. It's the same thing. It's just a smaller version. It's like you could take that metaphor and write a short story about it.
Yeah.
Same thing. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. So sorry, exactly. Had to jump in and just say that because it was just perfectly placed. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Yeah. What were you saying?
I don't know. This happens a lot, I think.
I know, right? This is pretty much how it goes with us. It's hilarious. So we were talking about the experience of being in the character and being in John and allowing John to. And I love that you also you speak like I do with Harvey about him as an exterior person. You don't say me. And I remember that we had that conversation as well of like, is it me? Is it he? What am I? And it was kind of like the moment where it's almost like this was from my point of view anyway. I kind of remember the moment where you took him and went, he's over there. So it's kind of like you pulled him from out and went, he's the character. And you kind of disassociated with a great deal of love. Yeah.
And I think as separately as it's being edited as well, I think a lot of the comments from the editor is, and I think that's an extension. I think at the first level, when we had that conversation, that was the distinguishing, that's why I was getting confused between the third party and the first party, of the character, in the character's voice, in the story. And in many ways, it was about what he was hearing. And just thinking about it, there were some comments with tenses, moving from the past to the present. Sometimes it became so real in the first party that it was happening as it was being as it unfolded.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
And that's interesting. That's you actually dropping completely and like giving yourself over to John and allowing John to tell the story.
Correct. Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you feel a little crazy now? Do you feel like you have multiple personality disorder?
Yes, I do. Yeah. Well, I mean, I always did, but it was just validating that further.
It's weird, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you have these kind of conversations. Only someone who's been through the process or kind of at least looks at the process and someone who's creative gets as well. Anyone who's allowed their creativity to stay with them or re-tapped into their creativity, they get this conversation. They get it completely. So anyone who listens to this and goes, I don't get it, I would implore them to explore creativity or have a play with this. Like just have a play with taking a component of yourself and creating a character around them.
When you said that, I was just thinking, and I think that's probably it as well. I think when I started, briefly, I've been in the corporate world for 20 years. So obviously there's going to be some logical, and in the corporate world, there's really very little room for creative expression or self-expression.
Yeah. Which is kind of silly. But that's why when I started, I assumed that I was going to write nonfiction at first. Yeah, that makes sense.
But as the blockage was being cleared, then I realized it was the suppressed fictional creativity that had to come out and flow.
I love that. It's interesting that you say in corporate world that it's kind of squished and there's not a lot of room for creativity. What I find interesting about it is that, and I've said this on other trainings and things that I've done, we've become a world of problem solvers. So we get a problem, we wait for the problem. Once the problem's in, it's like, okay, let's go find a solution to that problem. Instead of being solution finders. Solution finders have the solution before the problem arises. And that's where creativity lives. So if we all were able to embrace creativity and be solution solvers, we wouldn't have as many problems because they wouldn't even have a chance to show themselves. Because the problem would come and be like, oh, wait, this thing happened and I thought of that and there's already a solution to that and that's done and we can just make that go away. That would be amazing in the corporate world. Amazing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually.
Stick out the bum and get creative.
Whoa, I remember that metaphor.
There's another one. Write a short story about that. Oh my God, I love it. What else do we have? Okay, so next question I have for you is, what was your biggest personal takeaway from your journey?
Whoa.
Yeah, big question, right?
Yeah, it's a huge question. I think, well, it's kind of, it goes back again from the start. I think because the story, the writing, the act of writing the story and getting out was so personal and important to me in unblocking a lot of things. Every step of the way, it mattered a lot. It mattered a lot in the sense that I had to initially I had to, I felt that it had to be a phenomenal success in that sense of the word, right? You know where I'm going with this,
Every
right?
writer in the entire world just cracked up laughing. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it was after, I can't remember. I can't remember the exact moment. It was definitely after I found out that I was writing fiction already, and I had started.
Yeah.
And I think there was a little bit of a group chat that we were having, or a group Facebook moment. And from the beginning, you said that never attach yourself to the outcome.
Yeah.
Until that moment, until that first moment, let me rephrase, I was attaching myself so much to the outcome. Right.
And that's why you were stuck in the non-fiction space as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And even when I knew that I was writing fiction, I was still stuck with the outcome. Oh, it's going to be a phenomenal book. It's going to be fantastic. And that came back all the time. So I think, and even now, close to the end, as I'm about to get published, I think something's been bugging me, and I realize it's that as well. Yeah. Being so close to the finishing line and having it edited bugs the hell out of me, because there's going to be an enormous amount of oh, sorry.
That was perfectly timed. There's going to be an enormous amount of there.
Where are you? All right, there you are.
Oh, goodness me. That was so good. That is staying in. That does not get cut.
Bloopers. Yeah.
Yeah, for real.
Even now, you worry about your phone falling off the table right at the end.
Oh, dear God. Yeah.
Yes. So I think really, or I know really that, the journey of writing a book, it's important. It's really important to know why we're writing it. And I think, like what you said, that's the solution. Focusing on the solution, but in itself, don't get so stuck or wrapped up in whatever that solution is, because that solution is going to change.
Absolutely. That's it. And it's like, so you could have the problem of, I don't know how to structure it. The solution is do this, and then don't be attached to it.
Yes.
And play. The solution, really, you know what? The solution to any problem is play.
Yes, it's fun. It's play. It should be.
Creativity is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
That's good. I'm going to make that into a meme.
What, the stick on the head?
See that come up.
The stick.
So don't forget. Done. Yeah.
And it's funny. I mean, again, how everything ties in. I was listening to an audio self-development webinar earlier on, and I think what it was being said was, the bit about journeys and destinations.
Yeah.
The true takeaway, and it's funny, right? The true takeaway is the journey. The destination is great, it's fantastic, but where the learning happens is along the journey.
That's it.
It's not about.
The destination only lasts a moment.
Absolutely.
The journey stays with you forever.
Correct.
Yeah.
Although that said, having the book is a pretty awesome destination too.
It's true, right? Yeah.
See?
I can't wait for you to have that moment.
Uh-huh. Oh, I can't wait for that moment too. But am I attaching myself to it?
Yeah, don't be attached to it. Don't be attached to it. But when you do get the box, you have to do a Facebook Live.
Okay. I will.
Good. Excellent.
Will I get the box by November?
Okay. Will
I get the box by November? Probably not, right?
What's the date? Yes, you can. You can. There are ways for you to have that print copy at the launch. So I'll take this part out. This is actually me just giving you stuff now. So if you order it, if you do it through KDP and order it through KDP, you might have to pay a higher postage cost to get it there in time, or you can do a local print, which will probably cost a bit more. But look, even if you did a local short run print,
Mm-hmm.
I did, let's see, the Thought Collective magazine. I did a print run of 150, and it cost me like $500,
Okay.
including postage.
Mm-hmm.
So if you need to, do a local print run.
All
and
right.
you'll have books there. And that can be done in like a week, less than a week. The
Okay.
places that I recommend, so if you have a look at,
I think it was just in your post today, wasn't it? Wasn't that it?
I don't even
Was
know
it
what
today?
post is today. Oh, the one that I did today was how to check the costs before you actually
Yes.
publish.
Yes.
Katie Bean doesn't give the actual postage cost. It's really freaking
Wow.
annoying.
Okay.
But you can have a look at the Create Space one. It'll give you some idea.
Mhm.
If you go with the local ones, though, there's a couple that I recommended, and I put it in the success training. So I put in the Right Now group, in our spring group, I put
Mhm.
a post which is the training for success. So it actually
Okay.
goes through all the 7 points of success: getting your book into bookstores, libraries.
Yes, I remember that. Yep.
Yeah, and that one I gave you like 3 different options of places I specifically recommend for printing because I've tried them. Doesn't mean that's all there is, but there's, yeah, I think there was one
Okay.
that's there was one in your state. So, okay. Yeah.
All right.
All right, cool.
Let's go back.
So yeah. I was rewinding. I don't know why. We want to keep it. So what was the last one? What was your biggest personal takeaway? Cool. So if you're done with that, we'll move on to the next one.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, and take. So what would you say to someone that is considering this journey for themselves?
Well, that's easy. Just write, damn it. Just write it.
Do it. Yeah.
Well, actually, let's put it another way. If you want to write a story, and again, it's a cliche, and everyone does have a story inside. You know, some are weirder than others. You know, there's a lot more blood in a lot more stories than there is,
Yeah.
even in a corporate setting. Spoiler alert, but you know, but I think what's important is that what does the story enable you? How does the story enable you? How does that, you know, and I think that's the crux of it. So it isn't about again being a phenomenal success. You know? Well, if it is, and there are other vehicles that are probably a lot less painful to achieve phenomenal success, and I think that's probably why I'm saying it now, but soon I'll be. But that's why published writers aren't, you know, have a lot of weird hang-ups about themselves.
Yeah.
But it allows you to tap into the inner you, and I think that's really important. And it's important to know that along this journey that we're on, you know, which is life, you know, again, cliche, metaphor, stereotype, whatever it is, you know, but it's important. And if you know what's important to you, and you will discover so much about yourself, you know, going back to, you know, for me personally, that ability to write a story that would not be easily judged in terms of the character's actions.
Yeah.
And like you say, that's always a...
Hold on. We've gone, internet's gone a little crazy. Hang on a tick. Hang on.
I can see you.
Yeah, it's coming up. There we go. Right. So you, for a moment, you're like, I'm like,
Where do
yeah,
you stop?
no
Where do
idea.
I stop? Inner you, inner me.
Yes. Do that part again. Oh, good. Say the same thing, exactly the same. Go.
It's really important to tap into the inner you. or the inner me, whatever. That's why I get the tenses mixed up whenever we write a story.
The inner.
The inner, right?
There you go.
Because, yeah, I mean, you can't suppress, you shouldn't suppress who you are. You know, you should let him loose, let her loose, let it loose, whatever.
Let them loose.
Yeah, let them loose. Right.
Yeah.
You know, the different aspects of who we are, I think, you know.
Oh, definitely. And you know what, that's a little scary. When you look at, I mean, particularly, I can't wait to read yours because of what I've heard from the editor. I'm like, oh, I'm going to read that now. And if you look at what I've written I've written, you know, horror and Cupid's Guide. So it's kind of a scary insight into somebody's psyche, but at the same time, would you this may or may not stay in the recording, would you prefer me to stab 10 people in a book or in real life?
Exactly, right?
Oh dear Lord. Yep. that came out.
Well, I wouldn't stab 10 person and like, well, spoiler alert again in the book. I stab one person 10 times, but same thing, right?
Only one person though, you know, whatever. Well, that's it. Would you prefer to stab would you prefer to stab one person 10 times or 10 people one time?
One person 10 times, easy.
Yeah, that's true. Once the first one, they're already down, so they're not running.
That's the satisfaction of okay, never mind.
Yeah, this is definitely going to get deleted out. Blooper reel. I should do a blooper reel from all the interviews I've done because there's always something like this in there. Oh dear Lord. Okay, all right. So what were we saying? What would you say to someone that was considering the journey for themselves? We covered that. Like,
we have. So I think let me just re-paraphrase that. I think one is that everyone has a story. Right. Sorry, there are flies around. That's why I'm flapping my hands.
I thought you were just doing it. Yeah.
It's the stick. So everyone has a story. So what's important is that if you want to write, if you want that story to get out, I think what's really important to know is that how does getting that story out enable you? Where does it take you? And bear in mind that it's not about what the story is going to look like at the end, but how the story unfolds.
Oof. And that's again outcome versus journey. Yeah. That was good.
Yeah, thank you.
Good. I'm just going to take that part, that snippet.
Yeah.
I do want to come back to something you said a little bit earlier as well, which was about when I cracked up and I said all writers across the entire universe just cracked up laughing because the book was going to be this massive success. The thing is, it's possible, it could happen, but really what you want to be doing, and this is for writers, this is kind of like a little bit of a tip, advice, whatever you want to call it, for anyone who wants to be a writer, whether you're writing one book as part of your business or whether you actually want to be a full-time career writer. You don't sell the book. You never sell the book. You sell the brand. Or you sell, for example, a series. It's still a brand. The book is a product. And it's like, for example, Stephen King. Stephen King doesn't sell books. He sells his brand. People buy his books because it's Stephen King, not because it's a book that they see and go, oh, that sounds interesting. Sure, some will, but most people, it's like, oh, Stephen King, I'm going to buy that. They don't even look at what it's about because it's Stephen King. He sells his brand. Like Harry Potter, it was the brand that was selling. The books didn't sell. The brand around the books sold, and J.K. Rowling's became the brand. So both of those authors are published under different names, sold by little copies. As soon as people found out the books were about them, were actually written by them, they exploded because the books weren't selling, but the brand did. Yeah. So so the success is not going to come. It's unlikely. I won't say it won't because, 50 Shades. The success is unlikely to come from the book. It will come from what you do with it.
Yes, yes, yes. And you know what's the real bizarre, uncanny moment? As something was going through my mind, and movies, etc. And there's this book. Remember what she said, because I've already forgotten exactly what she said, but it was what's the title of the movie? It was Before Sunset. Have you seen Before Sunset?
Maybe. Who's
It's
in it?
Julie Delpy and Ethan Hawke.
Oh, I love Ethan Hawke.
Yes.
I don't know. Oh, maybe I have.
It's a series of 3 movies. One is Before Sunrise, or After Sunrise, Before Sunrise. The second is Before Sunset. Sorry?
Is it a vampire one?
No, it's not the
Oh,
vampire
no,
one.
I'm thinking of a different one. Continue.
Well. Anyway, he loses touch with this girl that he meets on a train. When they were young, and it's 10 years later, and he writes a book. For the purpose, the outcome was so that he'd meet her again, and there was a lot about the conversation.
Yeah.
But that's how the story starts. The movie starts. He's doing a book reading, and she appears, and the whole. Don't like Sophie, but it's well done, because all they do is they just walk around these streets of Paris or whatever it is, and they go back and forth, and it's about the journey again.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's really meta in the sense. Yes.
But it's not through how they expect.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that's the takeaway of writing. When you write, you're going to get a phenomenal outcome. Yeah. You're going to get phenomenal success. But it's not because of the outcome, it's because of the journey as it unfolds as well.
Exactly. And that's actually a really good point, because a lot of people try to jump to the outcome. So with writing, that makes no sense. You can't go, I'm going to write a book. There it is. Like, that doesn't happen that way, right? And so
many times I wanted it to.
Yeah. But it's a journey to get there. And I find a lot of people, when they start writing it as if they're doing this. And that's one of the things that I teach in the program is word purge. Get the words out first. You're frozen. Hold on. Gotta wait for you to catch up. All right, I think, hold on. Internet connection is unstable. Give it a sec. You're doing robot again. Hang on. Come on, internet. Shaky.
You're really clear.
If you could hear yourself right now, you are freaky as hell.
Maybe I am doing robot. I don't know.
Yeah, now I can hear you, but your image is frozen. Just waiting for it to catch up. Like you're frozen.
I'm still here.
You're frozen like this.
Okay.
Still frozen.
Look into the lens.
Like that, you would win a staring competition. That's incredible.
That's chapter 9 of the book.
Okay. All right. Can you do
a sneak peek?
Can you click on your stop video and then restart your video?
Should I move the phone?
No, it's like fully frozen on this end. Like, can you still see me okay?
Are you back?
Can you see me? All right, let me try and stop my video. And then restart. Nope. Okay. Can you stop and restart your video?
How do I do that?
There should be a little button down the bottom.
Yeah, you're perfectly fine.
What?
I've stopped.
Awesome. And then just restart it.